Okay, here we are. This one we're doing another Jubilee. This one's one capitalist versus 20 anti-capitalists. So before I begin, I'm just gonna tell you what it's probably gonna be about. It's probably gonna be capitalism, socialism, communism. There's many variations between all of them, but I'll give you a general example. Capitalism is letting the free market kind of take control, create businesses. There's a lot of businesses that die because either they're not as good or their quality is just bad. And then those rise up through the ranks in order to take over more of the market share. There's that. And then for socialism, it's considered a mixed economy, or as Vladimir Lenin would refer to it as, the first stage before communism, where basically socialism is where the state or a group of people take over the government, but they don't take over everything in general. They allow some free market companies to exist, and the whole goal of socialism is the government has the majority control, with some businesses being excluded, being left in capitalism. And then communism is when the state owns literally everything, runs everything, does everything, and has full control of everything. And those are the three things that that are probably going to be talked about the most. But that's the general gist of them. Well, let's get into this.
This is not the United States of Patrick Bet David.
Oh.
This is the United States of America.
Would you take money from a capitalist to help you go see specialist?
I mean, yeah, sure. Why?
Yep. Oh, just she already said a point I was gonna say later. But if you ask someone who believes in socialism or communism if they're gonna take money from someone else to do something, their answer is yes. Because the whole idea is it's rooted in selfishness and basically wanting to take other people's money. So the majority of people who are socialist, they're usually two sets of people. They're either broke people who want money, and then in order for that to improve their lives, or they're really rich, or they live in really rich neighborhoods and are spoiled and want socialism because they believe it'll bring the life standard of everyone up to their level. But in reality, they're the ones who are going to have all their money taken away. And the moment they realize that, they immediately do not want socialism. They just say it to grandstand, but they grandstanding, or they genuinely do not know that they're going to be the first ones targeted, and their life is going to be made worse in order to accommodate everyone else's getting a little better. But that's the. Now we go.
No.
But would you also be open to seeing somebody else I choose as a psychologist that may...
No.
Yep.
You're not.
No. No.
Oh my
When you're
God.
offering people here jobs, right?
Right.
You're saying that they would have to pay you money to get that. So in reality, you're trying to convince them.
That's not how a job works. How a job works is the customers pay the money, the business gets the money, the business distributes wages to everyone in the business. Then the workers get their money, and there's obviously other things like taxes or how much you work or how much the wages. It varies, but generally that's it. Unless the only time that your money really goes to the business, let's say if it's Walmart, if you shop at Walmart and you also work at Walmart, you are giving the business back money, but that's because you need food and water to survive. But if you work at a hotel and you never visit the hotel or stay in the hotel, you're not actually giving any money to your business because other people are eventually going to your paycheck.
To pay you
Be
money to be
careful
part
with
of
your
your
claims
company.
of defaming. Be very careful defaming when you don't know the facts. I'm Patrick
Yep.
David. I'm an entrepreneur and founder of PBD
Ooh.
Podcast. Today, I'm surrounded by 20 anti-capitalists.
Yep. Let's begin.
My first claim is incentive is the engine of capitalism. Remove it and the system fails.
Yes. That is true. Oh,
Hey, great to meet you, Patrick.
What's your name?
My name's Mason.
Mason, good to meet you.
Yeah. I'm value-tained. I'm a big fan of the channel.
Are you
So,
really?
yeah, I do
Ooh.
watch you
Good to
quite
hear.
regularly.
Very cool.
I do not agree with your claim. I don't think that incentives are only born out of capitalism.
Okay.
Most capitalist defenders say that incentive is because of scarcity, and people's ability to get what is necessary pushes them to work harder. I disagree with that. I'd say that some
His whole point falls away the moment that you think about, what if someone just got a second job in order to buy a car or buy something they want, and they're willing to sacrifice more of their time in order to achieve that goal. But let's see what he says.
Some of our hardest workers are single moms working 3 to 4 jobs, and the resources that they're able to acquire compared to those that utilize their workers in order to build profit for their own companies is not equivocal.
So how would you do it? How would you change it?
Yeah, so I think that humans inherently want to be meaningful. They want to contribute to their communities. They want to contribute to society.
His point already failed. Humans are not inherently wanting to contribute. I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, if you look at all these people in this group, probably none of them donate to charity. Probably none of them do that. If they weren't forced by the government to pay their taxes, none of them would. And here's the fact about it, which is that most people are selfish. Most people want all the money they have to themselves. And the thing is, they use socialism for everybody getting money as a disguise for what they truly want, which is they're willing to have their life become better if it means everyone else suffering because of it. If you gave any of these people $1 million, I promise you, the majority of them would not give it to charity. There might be 1 or 2 that might, out of the kindness of their heart, but the majority of them would keep it, blow through all the money, and then eventually become poor again. Because, yeah, the thing about humans is selfishness. When a guy sees a guy with a hotter girl than him, he wants her to himself. He wants that guy to not have her. And that same logic applies to so many other aspects in life.
Look at depression rates. Oftentimes it's people who aren't able to do anything besides laying in their bed and basically barely taking care of themselves. So I think that it's just a human intrinsic value to want to bring value to their community or grander society.
Okay,
so I don't think that it has to be through scarcity alone that scares people into working, if that makes sense.
I worked for scarcity. I think there's levels to it. You have the survival folks who work for survival to pay their bills. Some work for status, some work for freedom, and some work for legacy. The folks that work 3 or 5 jobs, to pay their bills and do what they're doing.
Survival.
If the incentive wasn't there, they wouldn't work 3 to 5 jobs. Some of the guys that build a bigger business that solve a lot of problems.
The incentive there is either I die or I work. That's not really a system that rewards merit. That's a system that pushes people into insecure positions.
And under Nazi Germany, they forced you to work in businesses. So in Nazi Germany, it's if you don't work, you die. You literally die. It's the same shit. You literally die. The only difference is that here, we won't kill you for not working. You'll probably lose a house, but you're not going to be killed for not working.
Not necessarily. In many cases, we put ourselves in situations as well. But when we're talking incentive...
Are you saying that it's an individual failure for these single mothers that are working
a lot
3
of
or 4
the time.
jobs?
For some of them, it is.
Interesting.
For some of them, it is.
I'm glad you bite that bullet, because most people are not going to say that it's a moral failure of people that are born into poverty that continue to live out cyclical poverty.
Let me explain to you. For somebody like me, I came from the single mother system. My mother was a single mother. We had, my parents got a divorce twice. They married each other. They divorced. They remarried each other, divorced again. I came up, we didn't have a lot of choices. I joined the Army, I got at that system, kind of wanted to see what I was gonna do for myself. Do I stay in the Army? Do I get out of the Army? I started working in sales. And then the incentive of working harder, eventually I built a good life for myself.
Again, you're totally dismissing the hard work that a lot of these people are putting into for just basic survival.
How is he dismissing the hard work if he literally told you that his parents got divorced twice and he had a single mother for most of his life? Like, what the fuck? Some of these people are just dumb.
I'd say that mechanics and plumbers and most people working blue-collar jobs that are probably watching this video are working tirelessly day after day.
I don't
but yet
disagree.
They still feel insecure positions to where they don't even know if they're going to be able to afford rent in the next 6 months.
So let me ask you,
if most Americans have a $400 to $500 emergency, they can't even afford that with the basic savings that they have. So this is not something that we should celebrate as promises of a system that gives you more if you work harder. We should say that this is something that rewards few, and I'm glad that you're an outlier that's been able to build a lot of success for yourself. I know that you're a multimillionaire. That's fantastic that you have those
when you
resources.
explain
But the thing
outlier,
is that
let me
cannot
ask you this
happen
question,
for
Bill.
everybody in society. It's
I-
possible for each individual to do it,
God.
but not everybody can be a millionaire. That's
for
guaranteed.
You, I don't think not everybody can be a billionaire or a millionaire, but I do think people can find ways to use their time to effectively increase their market value. And I don't think many people do that. When I talk to people and they tell me, I've watched this show, I've watched every one of these shows, I've watched every one of these Netflix shows, you can use that time to increase your market value instead of kind of, focus on what's going on with the stories and shows that are out there.
Let's move away from Netflix and TV shows and talk specifically about, do you think that capitalism is a system of merit that rewards people that are of higher merit? Okay, so...
Yeah, I think the majority of the time it does. There obviously are some companies or things where if you know the members, they'll give you kind of a golden ticket, which that's an annoying thing that companies implement, which is if you know someone, you can have them get in easier. But if your resume looks good enough and if everything you did looks good enough, you're likely going to be hired over the people that resumes look, kind of meh.
How would you say that this is a meritocracy when we have some people that are born into excessive wealth and some people that are working minimum wage jobs to provide for 3 or 4 kids? How would you say that that's a meritocratic society?
Those are two different things.
They are.
Oh, when he's talking about that, here's the thing. If your father worked hard all his life to get money, get rich, and get everything he's ever had, and wants to give it to their children, how is that a bad thing? As a parent, you want to give your child the best life possible. And if you're a multimillionaire, and you want to make sure your child never lives through any of the difficulty you did, you're obviously going to give them the money required to live a life that you never had when you were that young working for it. That's the thing. Every parent's goal should be to make the lives of their children far better than they had it. And this guy didn't even bother to acknowledge that fact. Every parent works hard so their children can be at a better life than they were when they started. That should be the goal of parenting. If you're not doing that as a goal, you are a shitty parent. And you are the reason a lot of kids are struggling and doing bad.
Two different things, very unequal things.
Well, no, not necessarily. The parents get credit for making responsible decisions so they can take care of their kids.
Yep.
The parents
so it's not
get
a
credit.
meritocracy, though. We're building dynasties of wealth.
I didn't come from dynasties of wealth.
I know,
came from
you're
a
an outlier.
99-cent store.
I get that. I get that
there's-
individual.
but
We're
there's
talking about
many-
systems.
but there's-
Capitalism is a system. It's not an
but
individual
it's a system
testimony.
that
So
you
is
get to
everything
use
else.
in your advantage. It's a system that's produced the best results than any other economical system.
That's
There's
true.
not an economical system that's produced better results than this based on the incentive.
History is a
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. Out of all the countries that are capitalist, I think it was 160 roughly. There's only one country out of all you can say is purely communist, and that is North Korea. Like, no joke. Russia does not even fit a communist country. Russia fits a socialist mixed economy. In fact, a lot of socialist countries come into this bag of a socialist mixed economy, but none of them actually reach actual communism. Because communism is theoretically impossible to achieve because of how difficult it is for the government to effectively run everything. Because if you're always guaranteed money, why are you going to work to make the best product possible when instead the people in their positions, they know they're not going to get fired, they know nothing bad is going to happen to them. So all they do is make mediocre products without any challenges or anyone threatening their position, and you just have to accept it. Versus a capitalist company, which is, hey, if your product is shitty, your company is going to die, and you're not going to be able to feed yourself. Yeah, that's a better incentive because your product has to be better in exchange for... But that's an incentive. Your product has to be better because if you don't, you will literally struggle. Well, let's see.
March of progress, right? So there are going to be advancements that we make, or there's going to be solutions that we make to previous ailments. I'm not saying that capitalism hasn't brought in better things than systems like feudalism or monarchy, but that does not mean that we're at the end of history. Do you think that capitalism is the final solution, and this is what we're going to
I
last
think capitalism
as we go
is
into
the best
future?
economical system because it gives an incentive for you to decide how big of a life you want to build. And by the way,
But
the best way to judge it, let me
believe-
just say this to you. The best way to judge it is in a very simple way. Take all the countries around the world. There's many different economical systems. What has the longest line of people wanting to get in there? It's America. Why is that? 15 million people came here illegally. Millions came here illegally just the last 4
But
years.
a lot of that is because of
Why do they
economic
choose to
scarcity
come
in other
here?
countries. Well,
Why do they choose to come here instead of Russia, North Korea, Venezuela? Why do they choose to come here instead of those socialist and the only communist shithole on the planet? It's because it's far better here than it is there. That's the fact. Not only on a basis of money, but also on the basis of it's a lot easier living here because the government treats humans better than those places do there as well. So there's two factors that both lead to people wanting to come here far, far more often than those places.
one of them, we could talk about one is American exceptionalism, which is continuing.
Oh, they
Thank
kicked
you.
him out. R.I.P. Let's see who's next. Oh, damn.
How are you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Alana. It's nice to meet you. Okay, so I think the issue is the framing of incentive here. Incentive doesn't disappear in a socialist or a communist society. It
Actually, it generally does. Because the government makes everything in communism. The government does everything in communism. So what is the incentive of building a business? Because the government is the thing that has the military and can easily shoot you down if you disagree with their values. Therefore, you don't have a really good incentive to do anything against that government. If they don't want any companies, they don't want any companies, and they'll strictly kill you, burn you, or whatever in order to stop you if they have to. Socialism is the weird one where they'll allow some capitalist companies inside, like even Nazi Germany. They actually let Ford, Coca-Cola, they let both those companies actually run inside of Nazi Germany making money. And the thing about it is Nazi Germany's human standards are far, far lower than America's was at the time. So they would happily force their people to work in those places in order to make profit. So think of it as capitalism with the absence of the human rights America gives people, which then leads to the people running it getting extraordinarily rich and the people doing everything pretty much gaining nothing because they don't have any amount of protections for them. But yeah, let's begin.
just changes and evolves. So we see in capitalism the incentive is obviously monetary gain.
Yep.
Maybe even collecting capital itself.
Yep.
Through land ownership. In a communist or a socialist country, you would see incentive would just evolve into, I know it's a vague term, but the common good. You have an incentive to do your chores around your house because you don't want to live in a filthy house, right?
Tell that to all the people that live in a shit stain in both a communist and a capitalist country. I don't think they have an incentive to make society better. I think they just want to jerk off and watch anime all day, and that's it.
That makes sense. It doesn't have to be just monetary.
So you don't think monetary incentive drives people, or you're saying that people should be excited to do their job, whether they're getting incentivized for it or not? That's what you're saying.
People will be incentivized to do.
Give me a case study.
Why?
Give me a case study of that worked. Give me one case study.
We don't even need to look at case studies. We can just look at charity work.
Oh, wait. Before she begins, the people who donate most to charities, I know this for a fact, our religious people are the second biggest, and the biggest one is actually rich people. Yep, that's who donates the most. Why is it that that's who actually donates the most? If you have a lot of money and feel like giving it back to society, and you're a rich person, you're obviously going to have a far bigger impact giving someone $1 million for charity just like that. And Christians, because of their core values and their religious beliefs and things like that, they believe in charity. They believe in giving back to community, so they do it. I'm not saying it's impossible for people that are atheist, poor, or middle class to do the same. I'm just saying it's generally less likely than those two groups of people, just because they usually don't feel either the societal pressure or the religious pressure of giving back to the community.
Why don't we actually look at a case study? You got two countries, North Korea, South
Yep.
Korea. One is communism and one is capitalism.
Yes.
North Korea's
Korea's
GDP
better.
last year was $23 billion.
Are we
There are
judging
many
countries'
companies-
values based
there
off
are many
GDP?
Damn,
companies
he
that
knows.
has
What they
a
value
job,
for
freedom of speech.
our
Yeah. Just so you know, that's gross domestic product. To give some background, South Korea and North Korea after the Korean War, one was obviously the communist side, one was obviously the capitalist side. After the Korean War, South Korea was pretty destroyed, so it actually struggled economically with North Korea for about 15 years before they eventually changed the way they look at things and started exporting stuff. And eventually, ever since then, South Korea has been economically better than North Korea ever since that very day. And that by itself shows that capitalism did work there. And the reason that North Korea did financially better at the time was because it was financed by both China and Russia Whereas South Korea was being funded by the US for a bit before they changed economically and then progressed as a country that easily surpassed North Korea once they got their fundamentals and fixed everything down.
You can't, like, if you lived in North Korea, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right
Yep.
now. You wouldn't have a
Yeah,
voice. In South Korea, I'm gonna give you stats. In South Korea, their GDP is $1.7 trillion.
South Korea is also owned by like
Yep.
5 companies in total in the entire
70
country.
times better
You
than
think
North
that's something to
Korea.
live by? If you
No,
aren't
what I'm
employed
saying
by
is
the
people
top
wanna
5
be free.
countries,
Do-
you are
do-
practically
do you like to
unemployed
be
in
free?
these countries.
Do you like to be free?
I'm not going to be free in a country like South Korea where I'm only employed
Do you
in
like
5
to be free
companies
to call
or no
somebody
job.
out like me? Do you like to be
Oh my god, she's annoying. He's like, oh, these 5 companies are creating everything. Well, yeah, under North Korea, the biggest thing you would have to worry about is whether or not you would be able to eat for the next day. That's the biggest worry in North Korea. The biggest in South Korea is I need to get a job. Vastly different levels of suffering.
free where you can have a strong opinion? Do you like to be free to have your
I
dreams
like to be
as-
free, but that's why I'm anti-capitalist.
Well, maybe you ought to
That
move
is
to
why
North
I'm
Korea or
anti-capitalist because
Cuba or
capitalism
Venezuela.
removes that choice. There is no real incentive of capitalism because the incentive is
my-
survival.
if I
when
were
you get
to-
into communism, the incentive is for the common
I
good.
love that. I got an offer for you before we move on.
Oh.
If I were to give you your $2,350, which is the cost to renunciate your citizenship, and I paid you your
Ooh.
first class, flight to whatever communist country, and $20,000 of spending
me a
money,
communist country.
would you give up your citizenship
Name
to go
me a
to that
communist country and I'll move
Whichever
out there.
communist country you want to go to.
yeah,
Cuba,
name-
we
that's
can
not
give
a
you
communist
Venezuela.
country.
We give
Oh, yeah. Think about this. This guy has the money to finance her, bring her there, and give her the life she wants, and be a citizen in that other country. And the reason she's rejecting it is simply because she prefers being a leash off of the US social programs rather than potentially dying in another country because of starvation. Yeah. Yeah, and when he gives you the list of a lot of countries that are more communist oriented, Venezuela, North Korea, Russia, yeah, you begin to hear things such as, hey, maybe I don't want to go to this fucking shithole because it's a fucking shithole.
you North Korea, any one of those you want
Those
to go
aren't
to.
communist countries. None of
Choose any one of them. I'll give you one-way ticket,
my
and I'll
God,
fund
she's
it for you
dumb.
if you want to.
That's it.
Yeah, she dumb.
Thank you. Yes.
She dumb. Oh, this guy.
What's your name?
My name's Hunter. I'm going
Hunter,
to be
good to
honest,
meet
I've
you.
never seen your videos before. Even though there is some real value to free enterprise,
Yep.
the profit motive often creates a perverse incentive and worse outcomes in certain situations. For example, healthcare. How much would you pay for a life-saving treatment for yourself or one of your family members?
How much would I pay for it?
Say you have cancer and you have an 80% survival rate with chemotherapy and less than a 10% without it. How much would you pay? Whatever it takes, right?
Sure.
That's a situation of inelastic demand when the amount that you're willing to pay is not based on the value of the service because your life does not have a finite value. In the US, 66.5% of all bankruptcies are because of medical debt. In most other developed nations, that number is way lower, if not zero. And at the same time, the US does not have one of the best healthcare systems in the world. We pay over $13,000 per capita. Meanwhile, Taiwan, which by most metrics has the best healthcare system and a national healthcare service, only pays about $2,500 per capita per year.
So what does that tell you?
That
tells
tells
you what?
us-
That's wasted expenditure.
Yes, that is a
So
massively wasted expenditure.
That tells you
There's a big problem with his argument, which he did not notice. Taiwan is a capitalist country, and he's comparing America, another capitalist country, in order to decide why communism is good. Two countries that are not communist at all, and he's comparing them as a reason to say why communism is good. This is not logic at all. It's not logical reasoning because he never actually thought about the fact that Taiwan is capitalist. We could say we have to look at this place and see what they're doing better than we're doing and try to implement that into our country. But it doesn't change the fact that capitalism actually is still good in Taiwan. Well, let's see.
so that tells you the government doesn't know how to spend our
Yep.
money.
No,
They keep
in our
raising
case,
taxes, we
we're
keep
spending-
more money, and they don't know how to spend the money.
No, most
That's
of that
true.
money is coming from private insurance. In fact, 77% of the people who went bankrupt from medical debt had insurance and then lost it because they couldn't pay.
So we can address that, the fact that
Yep.
60-something% of bankruptcies are due to health, which is your right. We've done many content on that piece. I want you to come back to incentive. Address the issue with incentive right now, with capitalism.
The reason why the medical debt is so high in that is because of the profit motive. If people will pay whatever it takes
profit
to not
motive-
die, the profit motive in that case is perverse because healthcare shouldn't be a market in the same way that other things might be a market.
So you don't think the motive to have profit, to come out with a solution, is a good thing for the marketplace, specifically
I think
in the
it
healthcare
depends
side?
on which market you're talking about. It's way different. We're talking about video games or cell phones or TVs or other goods that aren't as necessary as
You're
healthcare
specific to
treatments.
healthcare.
And the thing is, his opinion is pretty valid that a lot of things are happening, but the way to fix it is simply make companies with certain humanitarian restrictions that can then profit off of doing people's health care for far cheaper than the government can. That's the easiest part, which is we need to look at our healthcare system and figure out the problems in it rather than just changing to communism, where he never even bothered showing an example of a communist country that has better healthcare systems than us because they're literally dying off of famine.
Yes, I'm talking
Okay.
specifically about
So there-
healthcare
so there's
in
a-
certain other markets
You
where
ever
there's
heard
a
of Home
natural.
Depot? You ever heard of Home Depot?
Yes,
Home
I'm aware.
So one of the guys who's the founders of Home Depot, investors of Home Depot, his name
Sure.
is Ken Langone. His
Huh?
father died at 62 years old. Ken Langone today is roughly 90 years old, give or take. When he died at 62 years old, he tells the story that if there was a simple thing as blood thinners, his father would have lived to be 90 years old just like he is today.
Yes, that makes sense.
came because of innovation, which he's been
Yep.
on for many years. My dad's been on blood thinners
Sure,
for the
but
last 40 years. So
I think
the
you're
incentive to create a
conflating
solution,
two things right now.
Yep.
Not
No, it's
all
about
innovation
incentive. It's
is
about
the result
incentive.
of the market, because many healthcare
Most is,
developments
though.
are created by research
Major-
grants from healthcare funding, whether it's in the United States or in
Over
other
two-
countries.
Yeah, there is a problem that he's not talking about, which is the government is giving other researchers the money to figure out a solution. They're giving capitalist companies the money to figure out the solution for themselves and saying, if you do this, we'll give you this amount of money. That is a capitalist incentive, even if it comes off of the taxpayers, because the company will profit from the government paying them directly to solve a problem that they are unable to do themselves. That's a very, very easy solution. That's another thing he's missing out.
In most other first world countries,
Yeah.
the result of medical research developments, which
Ooh.
are massively outpacing that in the U.S. now because of our inefficiency, because we have a market-based system for healthcare.
A very basic
most
question
of that
for you.
is because
A very basic
of
question for you.
non-market-based systems.
Basic question for you. If that's the case, it keeps going back to the same thing. If it's better in other places than it is here, why are Americans and others not going there? Why are people coming here? It's very basic.
How much does a plane ticket cost?
No, they have the money to go to different places. They don't, because they know America's the greatest country in the world. They
Yep.
know it.
Okay.
Appreciate
Nice
you.
to meet you, by the way.
Let's see next. Oh,
Hey, I'm Luke.
Luke?
Yes,
Like the
Luke.
hat. Good to meet you.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to meet you too. So, I think
God.
incentives are exactly the fundamental problem with capitalism. Is that you say incentives are what make it work, and I think that's the whole issue. Is that
Let's
the
see.
primary incentives are either greed, amass as much personal wealth as you possibly can.
You think that's the problem? It's greed?
Yeah, exactly. And
the problem with that is, why are there billionaires that exist in Russia? Wouldn't you also call them greedy? Like it's pretty easy. But here's a problem. King Jong-un lives a very luxurious life in a country where everyone else has pretty much one of the worst lifestyles in the entire planet. Wouldn't you also consider him greedy? So that's not really a good talking point the moment you talk about that. And not only that, but there are billionaires in Russia that exist that Vladimir Putin allows to run companies there. Wouldn't that also be considered greedy?
Because you're not greedy at all.
And like you said, survival.
Yeah.
Right. So the person working 5 jobs, that they're
Ooh,
doing that so they
sure.
wouldn't want to do that if they didn't need to survive. But that's such a horrible dystopian world to live in. If someone has to work 5 jobs just to survive,
How did they get there? How much of that is on their decision making? How much of that is on their doing? How much of that is on the market where they're not finding ways to improve themselves?
it doesn't matter how much onus is on the individual. We want to create a
Of course
world.
Actually, it does. I'll tell you this right now. Like, let's say once you get out of your parents' house, your financial decision is pretty much like 100% you're not responsible for. Whatever your parents left you with or lack of them leaving you with, you're not responsible for it. But let's say after a couple years, your financial situation hasn't gotten better and you haven't really been improving yourself. Eventually, the fault becomes your fault because you're not improving your life. If your parents made your life shitty because they didn't bother preparing you for the true world, and then you inevitably fail because of that, it eventually becomes your fault rather than someone else's fault.
It is.
No. See, we want to create a
onus
world
is on
in
you.
which people don't have to earn their right to
And
exist,
we
live.
live in a
I mean, you
country
can
where
exist.
the
Let's
majority
just be
of
poor.
the world wants to come here.
Yep.
The most important citizenship country is America.
Right.
People
Yep.
give up their lives to come here. Have you ever lived in another country before?
No, not
No,
Why do you
exactly.
think so many want to come here?
Yeah, exactly. I lived in Dominican Republic when I was a kid. This is why I like America so much. Like, a lot of people who go from worse countries and come over here usually love America. The people that usually hate America are the ones that never ever been to another other country, that don't have the same human rights as America brings, as well as the same incentives that America brings. And it's always like usually spoiled middle class kids that think, oh, this is the solution for everything. Usually, but yeah, I freaking love America. Let's see.
I think the people coming here are coming from gang-ridden, corruption-ridden, violence-ridden.
You think that's just all it is? You think I came from a
I-
gang ridden in Iran? I lived there 11 years.
I think the majority
Oh,
of
God.
certainly coming from South
Most
America.
people come here because what you're doing to me, you're sitting across from me right now.
Right.
Millions of people are going to watch this. In America, you can call me out. You can say whatever
Yep.
you want.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen.
Other countries will
You're
kill you.
free and safe here, right?
Sure.
You can't-
Freedom of speech has
You
nothing to do
can't
with
do that in
capitalism.
Iran, of course.
Actually, freedom of speech has everything to do with just America in general. If you say Russia is shit in Russia, they will murder you and they will kill you. If you say it in North Korea, they'll do the same. If you say it in a lot of other countries, they'll do the same. There are many countries that Like, you could literally not disrespect the flag because you would be jailed for it. Like, America recently made it so that you could be jailed if you burn the American flag. But before then, you could burn the American flag, you could kneel during the anthem, you could say America's the worst country in the world, and guess what country you're usually doing it in? America itself. Versus, if you say that in almost any other country in the world, you would be executed, you would be killed by the very government because they don't want you spreading that message there.
Of course it is. There's a lot of elements with America. You're talking incentive. The amount of benefits America offers against other countries, it's so much higher, where somebody with big dreams, incentives, they're willing to come and say, I want to come to America, please let me in. And some come and take advantage of it. But to say the individual that's working 3 to 5 jobs, if you do that for a season, if you do that for 2 years, if you do that for 5 years, fine. If you do that for 20, 30 years, you're doing something wrong.
But the point is, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Those are the inalienable rights. We shouldn't have to earn those rights. We shouldn't have to earn the right to health care.
You do have to earn it.
Earn the right. No,
because
we just want to live, exist. We can't work our blood, sweat, and tears just to survive. That's a horrible dystopian world that we live in right now.
No, then what do you think we're here for? To just sit around and play video games?
What
do you think we're here for? To sit around and watch TV shows?
We're here to
sit and watch cat videos?
We
what do you think we're put here
we
to
are
do?
here to create a prosperous community, to lift
How do you
everyone
create a
up.
prosperous community? How do you create a prosperous community? Matter of fact, for you, how have you positively impacted a community?
I guess volunteering, food banks,
volunteering, food. I appreciate you.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. If that is true, I respect your decision, and that is a way to help the community. Even if the impact may be small, at least it is something. Most people would never get off their ass to willingly help somebody else.
For doing that, have you created jobs for others?
Created jobs? No, I wouldn't say so.
Why have you not?
I haven't had the ability to do so.
Do you think it's easy or do you think it's hard?
To create jobs is probably hard, yeah.
Okay, so the people that create jobs, you think they should have a little bit of incentive for having risked their life savings, spend time away their families to create jobs so somebody like you can work for that company?
Sure, but that is
the incentive.
And bravo for them, but that does not give them the right to pay themselves $2 million bonuses while their workers are scraping by.
Actually, that does give them the right to pay themselves that much. Like, I get it. It seems unfair. I get it. It does seem unfair, but think about it. Either they built up the company or their father built up the company, and then they dictated what their salary is. I understand. There's some people in positions of power earning money for pretty much putting no hard work in, but that's usually strictly because the person who made the company was willing to put them in charge. It just is unfair. But if I gave you a position like that where you earn $2 million a year, you would not want to lose it. You would legitimately not want to lose it. The same as the people in those positions. Like, your mindset would change the moment you were given it.
You don't get to choose how much money I choose to make. That's not your business. That's my business. If you have 4 girlfriends, and I have one. Is it my business to tell you can't have 4 girlfriends?
I think
if you play 7 hours of Fortnite every day,
right,
and I don't play Fortnite at all, should I tell you shouldn't be able to play 7 hours of Fortnite a day?
I agree. I agree.
Hey, appreciate you.
That was a great point. Oh, let's see.
How are you? What's your name?
Zena.
Zena.
Awesome. So this claim about incentive is one that we see often promoted by capitalism enjoyers, right? And it's this idea that,
Don't talk to goddamn capitalism enjoyers. Go to a communist country if you don't want to enjoy capitalism.
Profit incentives is the only thing that can make humans do things, get up out of bed every day, which has never been the case. Historically, it's not the case. Psychologically.
Historically, it's never been the case?
No.
What has been the case?
So we've seen...
What's been the incentive?
The incentive is intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation?
Of course. Have you ever heard of intrinsic motivation?
Of course I have. So you think people are going to go just do anything for no incentives?
The incentive is intrinsic, meaning passion, interest, and honing your skills.
What do you get paid?
Here's a big problem. How many people do charity work for free? Ask everyone, look at everyone in your family. How many people can you name do charity work for free? The answer is most likely 0. unless they have a religious incentive that they believe they should do it, most cases is going to be almost never. There you go. That already destroys your argument, which is if they wanted to do it for the kindness out of their heart, why doesn't someone fix someone's air conditioner for free out of the kindness of their heart every time they go to someone else's house? Why don't you see people doing that more often?
Or not?
Well, the problem is that we're forcing people to, need to, work to survive.
So
in
what's
system.
the alternative? So give me another solution, another
may
economical
I finish
system.
the talking
Yeah,
point?
actually,
Right,
I'm
awesome.
curious.
So yeah, the psychological theory of self-determination is widely accepted in psychology and basically explains that intrinsic motivation and passion is actually what predicts incentive. You're arguing that incentive is integral to profit-driven motivation. That's not true. Extrinsic motivation, at all times, at every single case, is going to predict less creativity, less motivation, less skill, etc. Intrinsic motivation is what causes things like technological development. Some of the greatest breakthroughs have been from people who are devoted in honing their skill.
So should they get paid for it?
I think that we shouldn't live in a system that privately owns the means of production and forces people in this position.
What college did you go to?
USC.
You went to USC. What did you major in?
Sociology.
Sociology.
Oh, that's another word for broke. Anyways, I fact-checked it because I know when she said sociology, I know the rate of people getting jobs compared to the diploma was not going to be amazing, and I was right. Look at this shit. See this shit? 50%. Yep, with a bachelor's degree in specific as their highest level of education. So secure a job that directly utilizes their degree within the first year after graduation. This rises to 60% after 5 years to the workforce, but stabilizes around 52% after 10 years. Meaning that her degree, meaning that she took on all this debt, all this amount of money spending in school, all for the chance of a literal coin flip whether or not she succeeds or fails. I'm sorry, girl, but you really have to try your hardest to succeed because those numbers look like absolute shit. Let's keep going.
Who's your hero as a professor? Who's the professor you look up to?
This doesn't seem like a topic that's related to capitalism.
This question? The reason why I asked this question is because somebody convinced you of that.
Somebody
convinced you that that's
so psychology and studies convinced me of this fact about the human mind.
Yeah, they convinced you of it because he probably got a degree in it that was also completely useless.
Fortunately, to your claim, results show that the greatest economical system
intrinsic motivation
is
predicts more
capitalism
creativity
that allows
and more
people to go above and beyond and
like
solve every
motivation.
single issue out there. An entrepreneur who gets up, who says,
"What was your claim again, mister?"
I'm going to incentive. The entrepreneur
what about
who has an incentive to go out there and build their lives, and you put no monetary incentive.
So I'm saying that this incentive that you're talking about,
yeah.
What predicts the best incentive, the best strive, and the best creativity
so what do you think about
has
Elon
been proven
Musk?
by psychology.
What do you think about Elon Musk?
Can we respond to my claim?
This is about incentive.
All right, awesome. So you're arguing that incentive is intrinsic and tied to extrinsic motivation. What we find is that the best incentive comes from intrinsic motivation.
So a person that's passionate about solving an issue is going to build something bigger than somebody else that's not.
Yeah, so someone who has a true passion for this.
Yeah, so
exactly. So profit motivation is not the thing that's driving innovation, right?
Of course
psychology.
It is. Of course it is.
Psychology proves that's not the case.
If there's not,
that profit's not the reason that we have the greatest inventions that we do today.
I don't know if I.
Actually, she's 100% false. Profit is a very big incentive for someone to get good at something. It doesn't always mean that every person who makes something does it for profit. Like, some people just make it because they want to help somebody else's issue out, which is another reason it happened. But if they want to make profit off of something they made, they can, which is another incentive for it. Which is, if greed makes it so that you make a medicine that saves people, then good for you. If you did it out of the kindness of your heart in order to make it so that people's lives are saved as well, good for you. Both are good ways of helping people.
Disagree with the fact that there's a passion behind it. Are you saying people with passion, even if there wasn't the incentive to make as much money as they would make, people would still pursue it even with or without money?
That's what psychology says.
Well, your claims are wrong because
that's not true.
Whoever your psychology professor is, If you look at data and you find out how America, that's only been around for 249 years, schooled all the other countries that have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years more.
They schooled all.
Yeah, that's true. Russia had like 50 different names before it became Russia. The British Empire pretty much nearly took over 3/4 of the entire world in their entirety. There was the Roman Empire that fell forever ago. There's a lot of these places. Why is it that America, with such a short history and such a weak country before World War I and II started, basically took over the entire world and is the exact representation of what every other country wants to look like?
They did better than others because the incentive
because they accumulated
was free market
profit,
capitalism.
right, to
That's
1% of the population and continue to produce on that
not
basis.
Necessarily. It's
right?
not.
We have this, okay.
It's
so
not necessarily.
Do we want to respond because you can say that?
You've been interrupting the entire time. So if you're saying about the 1% are the problem and they're the only ones that make money,
that's
a lot of
not
people make money. You said the profit goes to the 1%.
I'm explaining how it is that America has become the dominant power that it is now, right? What we see is that because we have this engine, right, this desire to accumulate profit, we morally justify things like going into other countries, imperializing them, colonizing them, and extracting their resources, right, to funnel our country, right? Social democracy.
There were some wars we did that were unjustified, but there's also a lot of wars we actually did to better other countries. A good example is the Korean War was a generally better war than the Iraq War, which was which was really bad for us.
And the Nordic countries don't do this. So yeah, they might not be the wealthiest power, but they have higher rates of education, literacy, human satisfaction, etc. Right? So it depends on what we actually value in a society. Do we value well-being or do we value profit accumulation?
Validates your point. If that's the case, people would move to those states. They don't. When you judge a great restaurant by the amount of people that come in, you can say the food sucks here.
Yeah,
you
so
can say the
service
sucks
here. That
but everybody's lined up to want to come here. They're not lined up to go into those countries. They're just used by professors as theories.
That is true. If you go to a Chick-fil-A and say the food sucks here, you can say it. But how many people are lining up to go to Burger King over Chick-fil-A? The answer is far less.
There were millions of people that also lived in Germany in the 1920s.
I lived in Germany before as well, for 2 years.
Yeah, great. Oh, are you basically saying this guy's like Hitler?
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this video. Straight Arrow News is on a mission to raise the bar on journalism in a time of media bias and mistrust. Straight Arrow News helps you quickly find trusted information you need to understand the news, allowing you to dive deep into the topics that matter to you and the world around you. Their work is trying to break the bias bubble, helping you understand how every side of the political spectrum is reporting on a story so you get a full picture of the news. That's why we're so happy to be partnering with Straight Arrow News. They deliver the facts, unbiased, balanced, and designed to make sense of a complex world, getting you the clarity you deserve and news you can trust. Go to san.com/surrounded or click the link in the description to check it out. By clicking that link, you're not just supporting this channel. You also take advantage of a better way to get the news. Welcome back to Trustworthy Journalism. Thanks again to Straight Arrow News for partnering with us on this episode. Now, let's get into it.
And just so you guys know, that entire ad was an example of capitalism. These guys did this, and this news site is giving them money in order to do it. Capitalism.
My next claim is capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other system.
I agree.
Patrick.
How are you?
I'm Gabby.
Gabby?
Yeah.
Good
nice
to meet you.
So I would argue that governments have actually lifted the most people out of poverty. If you look historically, we look at China, for instance, had...
Now the answer is no. Government, what it does is enforce... Government's way of fixing people was enforcing human rights. Capitalism's way of fixing people's life was, after these human rights were enforced, enforcing them in their company, because if they don't, the government will fucking kill them. So, the whole incentive is that once you have a government that sets a generally good standard of human rights, all these other companies can lift people out of poverty themselves pretty easily. Like, if you want to look at a good example of why capitalism worked over the government, just think of FDR's policy. FDR's policy, they did help people, but they didn't raise people out of poverty themselves. What did was, after World War II, everyone started buying stuff from the US, which is capitalism. Capitalism made the US the richest, strongest, and greatest empire that this world has ever seen so far. And it's all because of the fact that the free market, once the entire war was over, ran wild and boom, improved everyone else's life.
The most significant poverty reduction in all of human history. They pulled 800 million people out of poverty using state-owned enterprises and state centralized planning. They did work with the capitalist system, but they did it, most of it was done through state-funded infrastructure, education, and contributing to strong literacy programs, redistributing the wealth. I think that my other argument would be...
And China also has a very big housing problem, which is houses are the only way for people in China in order to get private property and invest, because every other means of investing and whatever is not allowed in China. So housing is pretty much the only way people in China get generational wealth, and they pour their money into it. And they're having a recent problem where a lot of people have houses that they own, but no one can afford the rent in those places, so nobody's going into them. It's their only form of generational wealth. And because of that, the market is overflooded with people owning houses. But when it comes to people living in them, they don't have the money to live in them, so it doesn't really matter.
That there hasn't been an opportunity for alternative systems like socialism to pull enough people out of poverty. So
if that's the case, why are Venezuela, why are Russia, why are China, why are all these countries that nobody wants to go to the best example of socialism? If socialism was able to work, it would have worked maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time. But when you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th try, and it still fails. Like, that says something more about socialism than it does about capitalism. Because capitalism works generally all the time.
So we look at examples.
There hasn't been?
There hasn't been enough opportunities for them to succeed. And so when
Why
we
do you
say...
think that is?
I think that is because partly because of the U.S. and I think because capitalist forces and global market insecurities have sabotaged these attempts to do socialism. So we look at an example in Chile in the 1960s. They elected a democratic socialist, and he proposed literacy reform, wealth redistribution, land reform, and all of that was a threat, obviously, to the United States because McCarthyism was on the rise at the time. And so instead of allowing Allende to have a chance with that, the U.S. Orchestrated a CIA-backed coup to take over.
I'm going to say that we've done that a few times. It happened with Iran. It mainly happened during Eisenhower, where we did a lot of coups. That is kind of a fucked up part that we did. Oh, I know what she's talking about, but yeah. Whenever people say, oh, we formulated a coup, I always think of President Eisenhower. Like, he was generally a good president, but like, every time another country did something, he generated a coup, and it ended that way in a lot of places. Like, there was Iran, there was that. There's a few more other places I don't remember the names of. But yeah, Eisenhower started the trend, and other presidents continued the trend.
And to have a military dictatorship that led the country instead of Allende, who actually was having a lot of success in reducing the poverty rates before the U.S. interfered. And so I think we look at other parts of Latin America, like Venezuela, for instance, and we see the same thing. We see that the U.S. has interfered several times. You know, with Chavez in Venezuela, he was able to reduce the poverty reduction in half in the first decade of him being in office, and he was sabotaged ultimately by the U.S. and by a military dictatorship, so that the people that replaced them were actually
So may I respond? It's
Sure.
a lot of different cases here. So
Sure.
thank you for that.
Of
So
course.
let's go China first. Okay, so when you say China was able to recover and because they use state-funded, nationalized systems. So in 1978, Xiaoping, the leader of China, went to Japan. He saw what was going on with Japan for 2 decades. Every year, their GDP was growing by 15%. The economy was doubling pretty much every 4 years. Sure. They go over there, they say, we got to find a way to compete with Japan. How do they have fewer people, but they're beating us? They sit down with their leaders after a few drinks. Eventually, they say, how did you fix your economy to be growing the way that it is? A capitalistic society that they had in Japan. They asked the question from Xiaoping, the Prime Minister Fukuda, asked the question, how many banks do you guys have in China? He says, we have 1 bank. He said, it's a nationalized bank? He says, yeah. That's it? Yeah. How many loan officers do you have? Not many. You want to compete with 1 bank? Yes. He says, if you want to compete with us or others, here's what you have to do. You need 5,000 banks with 35 branches, with 30 loan officers. That's a total of 5.25 million loan officers and a population of 600 million people that are living there. You do that every week. You take 10 applications with these loan officers for small business owners, and you allow the small business owner to compete. They did that. China started competing. By the way, in America in the 1920s, we had around 30,000 banks when we were really, competing in a marketplace. In the 80s, we ended up having around 14,000. Today, we only have 4,100 banks in America. That concept of allowing just 1 bank to compete, it's not going to work. China takes on the idea from Japan.
If I can interrupt you, I think that
I love that point.
With certain capitalistic philosophies.
I think you're thinking about this in very capitalist terms, which makes sense. You're a capitalist, but
because it works. That's the idea. Because it's produced the results.
You're about these scenarios in a situation where market mechanisms are in place, and this is the problem that I have with so many capitalists: is they can't exit their worldview and try to see a world.
Just so you know, this is basically bullshit for. I want you to think of your opinions the way I construct my worldview over the way you construct it, which that's her problem. Like, if he said the same thing to her, she would be offended. And the thing is, it's hard to do that because people generally, once they like something, they're more likely to look at the positive aspects of it over the negatives. And she's basically doing that. Oh, communism, this. Then he gives her examples of capitalism doing the same thing. And then she can't get out of her communist mindset. Therefore, she's basically saying, hey, don't do this because capitalism bad.
Where socialism could be in place because they don't understand the untapped potential of socialism. And I'm a democratic socialist. I think that we need to build forward towards that with reforms, and I think we need to work with the government. I don't think that we should abandon the state. I also don't think that we should give state elites the complete control over society. I do think that we should work with the state to instill these reforms and then
Yeah, but the problem is, if you're giving all the power to the state to run everything, who are you giving the power to? Wouldn't they just become the elites themselves? Like, that whole thing contradicts it. You don't like the government having too much power and running everything. So instead, you want to go to a system that gives the government even more power to do everything and run everything and expect it to work out better than the previous system, which had less government running everything. It's a whole ass contradiction within itself. It doesn't make sense, it's stupid, and it never will make sense.
Eventually erode capitalism.
But unfortunately, socialism has had hundreds of years
thinking in terms of
to
competition.
produce results, and it hasn't worked. Do you know why it doesn't work, though?
It's been sabotaged.
It's been sabotaged, or it's because it forces people to do something they don't want to do?
Does capitalism not do the same?
No, capitalism gives you
There's 7 million people in this country who have to work multiple jobs just to get by.
I have to work multiple jobs for a season.
They're forced to do that because either they do that or they starve. So if the options are to work or to starve, that's not freedom.
That's basically every country. If you don't work, you starve. Every country has that basic incentive. That's pretty much every country on the planet. If you don't work, you starve. Great. You're living in a country of some sort. Great. Great job.
That's economic coercion.
Respectfully, if you do that for a period of your life, I understand it. If you're doing that for 30 years, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be working multiple jobs for the rest of your life.
So, first of all, I'm not going to argue with this moral argument. I think that people who live in poverty, especially when we look at how many people live in poverty in this country, and also it depends on how you define the poverty line, but there's 40 million Americans who live below the poverty line in this country. There's 3 guys in this country that
Oh, before we begin, just so you guys know, poverty in America is still better than poverty in a lot of other countries. Like, our bare minimum standard of living compared to a lot of other countries is still far superior in a lot of ways. For example, poverty in North Korea is starving every single day. Poverty in America is a studio apartment with ramen noodles. There's a big difference.
Own 40% of the wealth. How does that work in a country that is
You really
built
want to go
on-
there? You want
Sure.
to go there? Okay, so let's talk about it. So when we talk about the rich people at the top, okay, and you say, well, the rich don't pay enough taxes. Do you know what the bottom 50% of taxpayers in America pay
3%
towards the revenue that the government gets in
3%.
taxes? Do you know what the bottom 50% pays?
Tell me.
2% of taxes.
Oh, I was almost there. Close enough. Close enough.
America pay towards the revenue that the government gets in taxes? Do you know what the bottom 50% pays?
Tell me.
2% of taxes. Do you know what the top 1% pays?
My guess is gonna be close to 50%. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was like 50, 60, 40. It was around that range.
There's been several years.
Do you know
that
what the
they've
top
paid
1%?
nothing.
Do you know?
They've paid nothing
No,
in
no,
their
hang on
federal
a second.
taxes.
This is from the IRS. I'm not writing a blog from Huffington Post. This is not Daily Beast. I'm telling you the story. The top
I'll say
1%
this.
pays 42%
I'll say this: the
of
top
all
1%
tax
are about
revenue.
to pay a lot less in taxes because of the provision
They'll
that just went
actually
into
end up paying
Trump's,
even
your
more
guys'
revenue to the
big
government.
beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great. The big beautiful bill lowers taxes. Yeah, for the people that pay the most taxes. Great. Yeah, for the very people that pay the most taxes. Like, goddamn. Yeah, this guy's good. I like him. Oh,
That was fast.
I'm Anne.
Anne, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So I do want to address part of the claim about poverty, but I also want to address what you brought up about like paying taxes. You said the top 1% pays a large amount of taxes. The problem is that the bottom two quintiles can't pay taxes because they quite literally have no wealth. Do you understand that? Like the bottom quintile.
yeah, but they still pay taxes. If I remember correctly, if you earn less than $7,000, you don't report taxes. But anything above that, you start paying taxes in general. And then it gets higher and higher to roughly maybe 10, 30%, depending on which tax bracket you're in. And it keeps getting higher as, you get more money.
Of the United States doesn't have any wealth. In fact, they're in debt, so they have literally like negative wealth.
Why do you think that is?
I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think that's because workers have been exploited.
Just so you know, there's a lot of rich people that also have negative wealth. Like Donald Trump at some points had a negative net worth. Yeah, it's a little strange when you see it that way.
I think that they haven't had the opportunity to gain social mobility.
Why do you think that is?
Because of exploitation.
You think they're being exploited?
Yes.
Oh, so people are being forced to work at companies. They don't have a choice.
What about the slave labor in China? Boom, there you go, easy.
I can say that they were
so people are being.
They are being forced. If the other option is starve or die.
What job do you have right now? What do you do for a living?
I do work from home stuff. I don't want to disclose that.
So you
basically what she's trying to say is she doesn't have a job because she's a useless. Oh, basically what she's attempting to say is I don't have a job. Basically what she's attempting to say is I don't have a job that actually benefits society. I just work from home in my parents' basement all day and want to become a multimillionaire by tomorrow just because I feel like it.
You chose to do that, right? That's your choice.
Yep.
Great. If somebody works at Starbucks as a barista, it's their choice.
Yep.
If somebody has a job that they're working, it's their choice. If somebody is not utilizing their time properly and accordingly, of course the market's
Choice
not going to pay you more.
Do you think that, like, they brought up single mothers earlier. Do you think that single mothers are sitting around playing Fortnite 15 hours a day?
Unfortunately, single mothers were manipulated on what happened.
Is that a yes or no?
Oh, I'll tell you this. The problem with single mothers is there's too many people propping them up like they're the greatest thing ever to be in society. But the biggest problem with it is, why are they single in the first place? Is it all of their choices affecting them? Maybe it's a boyfriend left her with the baby. Why didn't she ask the government? Why didn't she put his name on the birth certificate and have the government find him and then tax him child support? Did she do that? Did she not do that? Or is she just opening her legs for whichever dad she wants, having as many babies as she wants, and then getting multiple sources of child support, as well as social programs on top of it, and basically saying, oh, I have the hardest job of all time. Well, let's see.
Mothers were manipulated by what Lyndon Johnson came out with. They changed the benefits on giving single mothers the incentive to have kids on all the welfare program. That changed our system in a major way. The feminist movement got single mothers to believe they don't need men and they're going to do everything by themselves and they don't need a man to help them out. This division that's happened between us caused many people to be in the situation that they're
most
at.
Most households are 50-50. They're closer to 50-50
No.
so it has nothing to do with feminism.
Look at any black neighborhood and you'll see 50-50 doesn't exist. Maybe like you'll see middle class or upper neighborhoods be exactly that, but you won't see a lot of like black or poor neighborhoods be that way.
Feminism didn't just like convince women because they're too stupid to think for
Feminism was one of the worst things that happened in America because it pinned men against women.
Do you think that women are so stupid that they've been brainwashed? Okay.
And she's getting into that talking point, which is the moment you bring up something attacking women, she gets offended because she thinks he's attacking her when he's actually just bringing a point that generally affected women. And the thing is, this happened with men too. Oh, if you don't pay child support, we're going to put you in jail. This is something that disproportionately affects men because they go to jail for not paying child support. Do you think I look at it and say, oh, actually, don't attack men because that's offensive towards men, and you can't say that because men can't think for themselves? No, I say they're a bunch of retards and they should be in jail because they're not paying for their kids. But she took it as, oh, you're personally attacking me and or my mom about the decisions other women made that have nothing to do with us.
Okay, so you don't think that they've just fallen to this feminist propaganda? You don't think they're idiots?
No, I don't think that. But I do think people can be manipulated
but they're
and
not
brainwashed.
Stupid enough to do that because the majority of people are splitting nearly towards 50-50.
There are so many people that bought into a philosophy that stole decades away from their lives. Decades away from their lives because they bought into an idea that didn't produce the results.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about capitalism is the best economical system that provides the best results for people.
But we can't just jump back and forth between claim to claim to claim. So the claim about feminism brainwashing people into being single mothers, how does that work?
I didn't. I said feminists originally brainwashed women to believe men are the enemy. That led to where we are today. Last week report came in.
Single mothers?
Yes, in many cases because they don't need men.
Do you have evidence for that?
100%.
You really think a single mother wants to be a single mother?
Absolutely, we have evidence of that.
You think the single mother making minimum wage down the road, like working for some grocery store?
Okay, I'm sorry, but you gotta get I hope they kick this girl out. She's absolutely atrocious.
Having to take care of all of her children is just like, I
please
just
kick
don't
her out.
Man. I just want to be independent.
What percentage?
I'll live in abject poverty to be independent.
Oh, I don't want to be a man. I want to be independent. Yeah, I want Big Daddy government to pay me all my bills and supplement my lifestyle and my bad choices. Yeah, great. You don't need no man because instead you want the government to do it for you. You want the government to be the man for you in your life. And you think that's being empowered. That's not being empowered. That's being a leash off of society. And I know exactly that she is that. The moment I heard her argument, I know she's that.
Percentage of the U.S. revenue that we get in, you think we use for entitlement programs? What percentage?
I don't remember the exact percentage.
What do you think the number is? So we bring in $4.9 trillion.
But it's far less than what we do in private spending.
We bring $4.9 trillion in, okay? The U.S. revenue comes in.
Oh, I know that, yeah. Social programs, things like, welfare and all that, like when you combine them both, they're almost double the military spending.
What percentage do you think goes to entitlement programs?
I don't know.
What do you think is a reasonable number?
Well, what you're calling entitlement?
It's probably going to be 40-60% depending on how many of them he combines. If it's Social Security and welfare combined, then it's going to be bigger than if he just talks about one of them separately.
Programs, I'm actually not sure what you mean by that.
I'm talking about Social Security. I'm talking about
so social
Section
welfare.
8. I'm talking about any of these.
It's much less than other OECD countries.
What percentage do you think it is?
I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's much less than other OECD countries.
Do you think
we
it's 10%,
are far behind.
20%, 30%? What do you think the number is?
No, but it's relatively low compared to other OECD countries.
What do you think it is? Can you guess the number?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I've already said that.
68%.
Yep, 100%. I'm right again. I'm never wrong about this shit. Yep, 100%. It's more than the military spending, and most people do not know that. They say, we spend too much on the military, but then they never bother talking about social programs, because the moment they do, they're scared that their welfare checks are going to be gone by tomorrow. Social welfare doesn't lift people out of poverty. It makes them dependent on the government to give them the money. The whole reason for social welfare should be we give you a set amount of years helping you, where we slowly take the amount of money we give you and make it less and less as an incentive for you to figure out a way to help yourself. That's far more healthier than, oh, we're going to give you money all your life and you're never going to have to work and just live in a house all day, and that's all you do.
How much more entitlement?
68%. Can we fact check that?
You can fact check that.
Okay.
Please do so.
Please.
68%
I was right.
goes to entitlement
Of
programs.
our federal budget?
No,
Yep.
of the revenue that comes in, 68%.
So the capita GDP.
Not GDP. You're confusing the two different things here. Actual tax revenue that we get,
Okay, so tax
Gross
revenue.
revenue.
68%
Okay, now
of
that
it
we're
goes
specific.
towards entitlement programs. 68%.
And she's surprised. It's like, what? It can't be, because these social programs aren't doing anything. And you're right, because they made a bunch of leeches on society rather than productive members that do something to benefit society. It proves the whole point that if you make a government entirely off of, oh, everyone's just going to be good people and do things because they're good, and you find out 60% of them are leeches, and then your entire worldview fails because your entire premise is dead.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was right. Oh,
Hi.
How are you?
oh, she
Okay.
dropped
Grace?
something.
Yes, Grace.
Good to meet you.
Hi. I want to say that I think it's pretty comical
Oh, that
that an
guy's
elite
nice.
such as yourself has
Oh, wait, no,
the
he took
goal
it
to
himself.
tell us average Americans who's in poverty and who's not. A lot of
I
times
was an average American.
You're
I
not
was a guy that
anymore.
was in poverty.
You're not anymore.
And you can also
you're
change.
Very,
You can also change.
anyways,
He literally said he lived in Iran for 10 years. I'm sorry, but any experience that you had bad in America can't be worse than a government that purposefully funnels money towards terrorism rather than giving their citizens actual water and food to survive. I am sorry, but no. Iran is literally at a point where they're running out of water. And the best thing they have is to filter ocean water to turn it into regular water in order to survive, or get imports from other countries of water. That's where Iran is. And it's all because they continuously funded terrorist groups every single fucking time in the Middle East, rather than actually doing something to fix the giant shithole that they live in. But yeah, Iran, hell no. If you look at the United Arab Emirates versus Iran, you see a difference. That place is better in every way. That place is safer for women, safer for men, safer for children. And it's all because they don't funnel all their money towards literal proxy terrorist groups and then pretend like they're not literally destroying the region there and being the biggest threat to it.
Do you believe
you're
you can
talking
change?
down. A lot of times that the market for poverty is actually very low. So a lot of times like $2 a day is the line
she's
for how they
tiny.
measure poverty.
$2.15, yeah.
And that's ridiculous. So if I make $5 a day,
Yeah.
I'm not in
But that's
poverty.
because
I
it's
can
around the world,
actually
not in
live. I can pay
America.
the rent.
Sure.
But we're talking about this country, right? We're not talking about around the world. I've noticed that you like to do that. You like to like skirt from America and talk.
I mean, that's exactly the whole point. If you want socialism or communism, you gotta bring an example of a socialist and communist country. And then say, what are the things they are doing wrong versus the things that they are doing right? And what should and should we not do compared to that other country? And you can do that with another capitalist country as well. It's super easy. Taiwan has a better healthcare system than us, so we gotta learn why they have a better healthcare system than us, instead of just saying the government takes control of everything and does it that way.
About other
Actually,
countries
I've been
to try
saying
to make
multiple
it look like
times,
we're better, but we're
America's
actually
the
getting
greatest
worse.
country in the world.
Yep.
Anyways, it's the greatest country.
The
ever.
And the
We are
strongest.
at the
Close.
highest that we've ever been with homelessness since we started collecting
Why is
data.
that? Ask your. Are you from?
The 2000, it's the housing market bubble crash. That shit really affected people, and it took away a lot of wealth. Basically, what happened was a lot of people who never would have been able to get houses before were allowed to get houses by the very government. Then 2, 3, 4 months later, they defaulted on them and were in debt because they weren't able to actually afford those places in the first place, because all they did was lower the standards when they didn't have the sufficient amount of money to actually live in them. And it really hurt a lot of people. And that happened during Barack Obama. I still remember that. That was a huge blow to a lot of people.
California? We haven't had a pay raise since
California?
2009.
Yep. Do you live
Our
here?
minimum wage nationally is $7.25.
Yep. Okay.
And you wonder why we have the highest poverty rate. You think that capitalism's winning? Can you survive? Would you like to live off $7.25
I used
an
to
hour?
work for $4.25 at Haagen-Dazs.
Right.
Then I
and that was
Okay, let's see what she says.
It's a very
worked
different
at
time.
Burger King for $4.75.
And how much do you make
Then
now?
I make millions today. Then
right,
I worked
and that's
at
why
Bob's
you like
Big Boy.
capitalism, because we're not all making
but
that.
I'm going to tell you this. If I gave that girl $20 million today, she's not going to give that to social programs or to help other people. She's going to do makeup, she's going to do cars, and then the moment it all runs out, she's going to be like, oh, we need socialism again.
But
and
the
that's my
difference
point.
is, but
a
the difference
millionaire is
between
critiquing the people in poverty
the difference,
and saying
my
you should
hope,
work harder. You should work.
He was in poverty.
We can't all be it.
My hope is that you believe you can change and improve. That you believe you can upgrade yourself. That's my
It's
belief.
very, and you know what? That's what rich people like you want to keep telling us.
But
you
yeah,
can be
the
just like
difference-
me. Do you want to be like me? If you work hard
my
enough,
I'm not
to be
saying
like
that.
me. It's not very
It's
realistic.
actually you wouldn't be able to be like me because you
You're
wouldn't work
talking
that
down to
hard.
people like
Would you
us.
work that hard?
You don't.
Would you?
I'm not going to tell you. I don't have
Would-
to answer
would
that.
you- if you
I
don't
don't have
choose
to
to-
measure my I don't have to.
Here's the thing. Measure your success compared to yourself. Don't do it to others because it will make you depressed. But do something like, is my life better today than it was 1 week ago? And if it's slightly better, congratulations. If it's slightly worse, figure out what you fucked up in order to make it better. And if it's something like an emergency, that your car broke, or maybe a medical expense, that is one of the few things that I would consider more of, something happening that's normally out of your control. But generally, compare yourself to yourself and try to make your life better than it was yesterday. And then if 1 year later, your life is far better than it was the last year, you've done something right. And you should be happy about your accomplishment.
Measure my work ethic to be worthy.
You don't have to. Then you can't be upset for others who do so. You
I can't be upset for people who are struggling.
because they work
and that's
harder
what's wrong
than
with
you.
capitalism, because
But
you
go
think
back to the
that
homelessness.
you have to work so hard.
Do you live in the state of California?
I do.
Okay.
Oh my
you said
God.
homelessness.
Yes.
That's where it came from. California. The only communist fucking state on the planet, man. The only communist state we have. God freaking damn California. You have done irreparable damage to the United States.
What do you think about your Governor Newsom? What do you think about him?
I don't like him. I'm a progressive. He doesn't do.
Oh, yeah. Nice. I'm glad she doesn't like him. I don't like him either. Probably for different reasons, but I don't like him either.
Not for the people.
Do you know when he was...
He takes corporate money.
Fantastic.
He takes money from people like
when
you.
He was...
He's not
I've
for the
never
people.
given him money. But do you know when he first became
that's
a
not
governor?
surprise, but a
I
lot of
would
people
never
like
give
you
him
have.
money. But when he
Who have
became a
given
governor
money?
first, from then till today, he's raised the amount of homelessness in this state by 36,000 people.
Okay, I don't
Yeah.
like people like you are. Billionaires like you are the
gave
problem.
him $24 billion. Taxpayers
I believe it.
gave
I don't
him
like that guy.
$24 billion, and he didn't do nothing with it.
But-
Yep. And guess what? You know what Ron DeSantis did? He lowered Florida's debt. He made Florida schools better, and he made Florida a safer country. We need more Ron DeSantises versus Gavin Newsom. If California was able to find their own Ron DeSantis, dude, they would be happy. They would probably have more guns, but they would have a lot more people that shouldn't be out in jail. They'll have a lot more public spaces fixed. They'll have a lot more roads fixed. They'll have greatness, man. California, please, get that man out of the office. If I ever find someone running for California that I believe in, I will post it on this channel. And hopefully you guys win. Because you guys deserve better than Gavin Newsom. His home is California, and he treats his home like his own personal piggy bank he can steal from, rather than the place he's been put in charge to fix.
Vote him out.
You
He's
vote
just
him
like
out. You have him. It's not that.
That's what I'm
it's,
saying. I'm
but
not
I
here to
would tell
defend
you,
Newsom.
you can
but
go.
you're not much different than him. That's all I'm saying.
He's
You're in the
better than
same
him.
Class.
But
You're
you're sitting here blaming a person who's changed their lives for the better And it's their fault. My dad was.
This is not the United States of Patrick Bet-David.
Do you know
this
where?
This is the United States of America.
I know, and I'm so
all of our
grateful to
people.
be here. I'm
and you
so
say
grateful
that,
to
but
be
are you
here.
willing to pay more
I
taxes
am
so that
so
other people don't
grateful to be
suffer?
here.
Are you willing to pay more taxes?
He probably is paying more taxes than you ever have in 1 month than you did in the past 20 years combined, and it's not even close.
So grateful to be here.
I see you're skirting the question.
My dad was a cashier in Inglewood at a 99-cent store. We had nothing. No, I don't tell you that's great. We had nothing.
Well,
I'm the guy that had I'm the guy that had a
I'm propaganda that you guys, so you can be like me.
What you don't want to hear is that because it's the truth.
We
Can I ask you a
all
question?
be like you.
When's the last time you read a business book? When's the last time you read a self-help book?
I don't need to answer that.
Oh, if you want a good one, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It doesn't get into finances, but it teaches you the importance of finance before you go into anything more specific. That's one of the best starter books ever before you get into everything else in finance.
Oh,
When's the last time you read a self-help?
I wrote a self-help book.
Tell
I'm
me
a writer. I'm a creative.
Tell me what self-help book you read.
I'm not.
Give
I
me
don't
one.
need to.
Give me one you read.
Because she's dumb.
Are you willing to take one recommendation?
No.
You're not.
Not for me.
Then I can't help you.
That's okay. I don't need your help. I didn't.
Yep. Read Wealth of Nations. That's another good one. Read. I forgot who it was, but it was called Laissez-Faire. It was like Laissez-Faire Capitalism by, I don't remember, some British scholar. Or you could even read a lot of the reportings of Warren Buffett. You could read all that stuff because there's a lot.
I'm here
Then
for your
great.
help. I
You've
came
been
here to
flagged
debate
out.
you. Good.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. Annoying. Thank God they got that woman out. Oh! And that girl really wants to turn.
Armin?
Yep, Armin Crow. When you said capitalism is the best form of economic organization the world has ever seen, it made me think of a very particular picture from history. So I don't know if you know this, it's a little history lesson. In 1900, King Leopold II of Belgium determined that the entire land of the Democratic Republic of the Congo was his personal property. And within 10 years, capitalists came out, they exploited all the land, extracted trillions of dollars of resources, 15 million Congolese died.
Seized the Congo and his private property in 1885 and forced residents to harvest rubber. His men murdered, raped, mutilated villagers. The exact details unknown, but estimates show the population was cut in half to 10 million. That is called colonialism at its worst. That is colonialism. That is what we call invading another country and extracting it for its resources. That is just a sad fact of reality. Military warfare, taking over other countries. Yeah, that's something that it just happens. If you have a weak military and you can't defend yourself, you're not a good nation, because the moment another country comes in, it's literally over. That's why I support a lot of countries having really strong militaries as a good deterrent for their country to actually succeed.
For reference, the Holocaust killed 6 million people. And the most famous picture from that time in history is a rubber worker staring at the disembodied hands of his 8-year-old daughter because he didn't hit his rubber quota. I'm willing to bet that man worked harder to hit that rubber quota.
Oh, and just so you guys know, the National Socialist German Workers' Party is the definition of Nazis. So when he's talking about that, what he's talking about is a socialist party that did that and happily got away with it. They committed multiple atrocities, and it gets very bad when you listen to the stories. Them and Japan were pretty much equally as bad to each other. They both did horrible human atrocities. And it taught the world that from now on, we're going to try to make it a better world than those people ever had it.
Than anything you've ever worked for in your entire life. And I think when you say this is the best system that's ever been created, to me, that's the result. That's what happens when there's no rules.
It's devastating when you hear stories like that. I don't disagree with you. They had it hard. They worked very hard, and they had risk on the line. Many times it was their lives that was on the line.
Nazi
and
Germany.
You see that in many different places when you go back and study history. That's why today in America, that can't happen. In America, you have a choice to do what you want to do with your life. When we go back and look at those stories, we can go to see what communism did. How many lives were killed because of communism control? You don't need to go through that number. You hear the numbers between 60 to...
Yeah. Fun fact. Russia and Nazi Germany didn't like each other. It was this weird beef between two authoritarian governments that thought they deserved control over the land. And they didn't hate each other because they were communist and socialist as much as they hated each other because they were super ultra egomaniacs that both wanted total control of everything.
100 million. We can go that route. But if you're talking about which provided the best economical system today, you judge it by how many want to go live somewhere that gives you that opportunity. And that is America.
Do you know why kids can't work in America?
Why kids can't work in...
It's because child labor laws were made in order to protect children from purposefully being exploited by companies and or parents or bad actors. And that's the thing. You can still find that stuff in other countries that are either less developed or care less about human rights than ours. And the reason is because so many kids died working horrible conditions and terrible jobs to the point where enough people got together and decided, no, this is enough. We don't want kids working because they're dying too early.
Yeah,
America.
why there's child labor laws?
Yeah, because of child labor laws.
It was labor unions. They were getting shot at by police officers to fight for the weekend, to fight for the 40-hour work week.
Yeah.
Another good example is the 1908 mill children's strike. It was thousands of kids who were working 80-hour work weeks striking so they would only have to work 50 a week. That's what happens when there's no rules.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's human rights with capitalism mixed into it. Because every single system, no matter which it is, if you have no human rights or no human decency, they will take advantage of the poorest, most vulnerable, weakest members of the society just because they can exploit them. This is not a capitalism issue. This is an issue of a bad government not caring that people's lives are being hurt, destroyed, and killed for the sake of profit and or improving the state.
Right, and then the government had to come in and say, you can't employ children. So I think capitalism
We don't
itself,
disagree here with that. I don't think we're sitting here talking about child labor. Are you hearing me talking about capitalism is the best system because it provides child labor in America?
I'm saying that capitalism, there's no guardrails inherently. The government has to come in. People have to go and organize. And I think what you've seen for the past 50 years under neoliberal politics is that slowly being chipped away. All of the good things of the New Deal, like Social Security, the 40-hour work week.
I do think you need law and order, but also at times, you know, the amount of rules you put in place can prevent incentives. Right now, if you think about drones, warfare is changing, okay? And
drones kill
70%
civilians.
of all drones that are being built today are being built by a company called DJI in China. Ukraine was building 1,000 drones a day at $500 and going and hitting $5 million equipment of Russia, destroying them. 68% of their attacks was from drones. When you come to America, look at us. We're at 1 to 2% at the top. Let me explain my point to you here. Part of it is overregulation. Overregulation, FAA laws, this laws, that law. So 500 startups that got into the drone business, they walked away because it's overregulation. Many cases, when you say, I want to put this rule in place, great. Another person, no, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. No, I want to go this much. It eventually gets to the point that it chokes the innovator. And
that's true. There are a lot of rules that are restrictive and bad for companies. The thing is, people have to be able to differentiate between both of them, but they don't, so they just go, oh, more rules, more rules, more rules, which make it easier for the companies that already succeeded to stay at the top of the business, where companies that are struggling to get up there make it harder for them than that other company had it before. If this rule doesn't affect human rights, doesn't hurt people negatively, should it be implemented? That is the question everyone should have.
That's also not good.
I would disagree. I think regulation is the reason why there's no lead in our gas. You were talking about incentives. The only incentive that really matters to a good capitalist is profit. It is profitable to put lead in the gas, and it doesn't matter if it lowers the IQs of kids living nearby by 15 points.
Someone's convinced you at a young age that these capitalists are bad people.
Oh, before we begin, let me talk about lead since he brought it up. But what he's talking about is that they put lead in gasoline at first. People knew they had negative effects, and eventually it was outlawed to put lead in gasoline. But the effects were felt because, there was no government regulation for it, because the government actually allowed it at the time. But then it fixed that issue later on. This is just a case of we tried something, it had horrible effects, so then we got rid of it in order to get the negative effects gone from society, because the next generation should not deal with that problem again.
Well, then why were they fighting against taking lead out of their gas?
Think about it this way.
He's
the
dumb.
main thing, I don't know if you know Michael Burry. You ever seen the movie Big Short?
Yeah.
At the end of the movie where it says Michael Burry now is focused on water because he thinks water is the future gold or whatever he calls it, right?
Sure.
Okay. Go to the company that's Coca-Cola that sells Coke. And how much criticism have you had over the years with Coke, right?
Oh, I think Nestle's had a lot of criticism because they don't think water is a human right for the...
That's a different conversation. If I may finish the point, one thing with Coca-Cola is the following. Do you know even Coke got to a point that they realized in order for Coca-Cola to be around 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they went and invested billions of dollars to fix the water issue around the world. They're trying to get cleaner water. Capitalists eventually get forced to take care of the person because having lead in the water is just not a good policy.
Yeah, because if your customer base dies, that's not a good thing. But think about it. He's talking about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola also did do all that stuff in Nazi Germany. And that's definitely a bad part of their history. But if it's done in America, like the fact that they actually tried to implement things to make water safer and better for people is the reason people are living longer in order to drink their unhealthy drinks. Yeah.
Long term.
Okay.
Surrounded is now a podcast, available wherever you listen.
Oh, God.
Search Surrounded, plug in, and stay part of the conversation.
Everyone making
Anywhere,
a podcast.
anytime.
My next claim is if all the money in the world were divided equally, it would return to the same pockets within 5 years.
Yes, 100%. I agree with that. So here's how it works. Let's say everyone was given $100,000. All you have to do is just wait out all the retards in the world, because the prices of every product is going to increase. A bag of chips is probably going to be like $20. Cars are probably going to be like $100,000 for ones that used to be maybe $20,000. So the whole point is you got to wait it out, do your best to not spend that money. And eventually, once everyone who's stupid gets rid of all their money, because if you're a fish, because think about it, if you have the IQ of a fish, and you get out of water and then start flopping around the shore because you're a retard, what makes people certain that once they throw you back in the pond, you're not just going to do the same thing again? And that's the thing. Mother Nature doesn't care how smart it makes you, how negatively it impacts you, because Mother Nature is not meant to be kind. So some people just normally have things that make them dumber than others. And some people are born smarter than others, maybe prettier than others. So when you take all that into account, once all the dumb people get rid of all the wealth they just accumulated, boom, they're broke again. Because bad habits don't change just because you get money. If you have a cocaine addiction and now you have all this money, you're going to use it for your cocaine addiction. And once you can't fuel it anymore, you're going to be depressed saying, what did I do wrong? And instead of looking at your spending habits, you're going to be like, the problem is I didn't get enough money. Let's see.
What's your name?
Caleb.
Caleb.
Yeah, so you just said that you are proposing if we divided all the wealth equally in like 5 years. How would you propose we divide the wealth in that way? In this
my God. Let's begin.
Experiment. Again, if we're going to give it a serious
right.
look,
Let's see.
I want to understand, how would you propose that happen?
I hope you realize this is just a question we're asking everybody, right? But if you take all the wealth, which is around $500 trillion, okay, give or take.
Okay, 500 trillion. Let's do a simple mathematical equation. 500 trillion. Let's put that as roughly USD. Okay, but let's see. So 500 trillion. 3, that's 50 million. Yep, 3. Yes, okay, one more zero. Now we divide it by, it's almost 8 trillion, so I'm just going to use more of a rough estimate. 8 trillion people. No, 8 billion people, that's it. There you go. Yep, million. Okay, that's one more zero. So then we get rid of that. And boom. So, there we go. Everyone gets $62,000. So now, you just gotta weigh out the retards and boom, you're gonna be set. Maybe, at least if the price of everything else doesn't dramatically increase. But maybe you'll be better than everybody else. Now let's go back.
You divide it by 8 billion people.
Okay.
It would be around $62,500 each. Within 5 years,
I was close.
The people that don't know how to handle money themselves, they would lose it all.
Yep.
And within 5 years, the same wealthy would get the same amount of money.
As someone who certainly doesn't make that much money, I'm willing to take that as a gamble just for fun.
Right,
I'll be
sure.
honest. But at the same time, like, okay, so you're just now claiming that people who don't have wealth don't know how to manage it. And that's fair because a lot of them have never had it before. So what do we do to basically ensure that people like myself who are currently, thank you to the United States, thank you to the state of California for giving me medical insurance to get blood work, for giving me food stamps so I can have food. I've applied to, I don't know how many hundreds of jobs. I can show you the receipts. I can show you the email confirmations. Like, I am trying my best to use my values with the freedom that we have
So
here.
if I gave you a job, you would work 40 hours a week?
If the job is in alignment with something that's noble and good, I think I could. The issue is, and again, you may say that this is a personal weakness, but like right now, substitute teaching, tutoring, trying to help in that way is making it so that I'm able to scratch by.
Yeah.
But
Oh, okay. I respect his career choice. He obviously wants to teach kids. That is a noble goal. And it's sad that a lot of teachers have to not only suffer because of that, but as well as the fact that there's too many parents that don't discipline their kids. So they have a bunch of over-entitled brats running around, breaking everything. And because they're kids, you can't discipline them because only their parents can. And if their parents never decide to, well, your life is going to be terrible because you have a bunch of losers running around doing whatever they want that are doom scrolling the internet all day in their parents' house, watching TikToks and all that stuff. And then they get into your class, they're supposed to focus, but they can't because they need that sudden rush of dopamine that CoComelon fuels them on. That is a very sad thing. And the thing is, parents need to take accountability for their actions over making your life that much harder. Then once that part is done, then we could go on to the other parts of being a teacher that suck.
the supplemental income and the help from the society of people who make more money, I'm going to not have enough food.
I want to address something which you made a point that I agree with. On why don't some people create wealth? In my family, when I was growing up, and I was telling this young lady over here, when my dad was a cashier at a 99-cent store, we've never owned an insurance policy before. My parents, we've never owned a house before. I've never lived in an apartment with a swimming pool before. We've never had a 401k stock, mutual fund, none of that stuff. I had no clue how money worked. So for me, when I got out of the Army with a 1.8 GPA, out of high school, I went straight to the Army because I didn't know how money works. If you look at our system today, in high school, we learn about a lot of different things. They don't teach us about taxes, finances, mutual funds.
Oh, I said that in another video. But yeah, in a video before this one, I talked about how education fails students because it purposefully neglects teaching them about how money works, which sucks because you're forced to do taxes. You're forced to pay taxes. And if you don't know how a 401k works, if you don't know how the stock market works, you're literally at a disadvantage because the government didn't bother teaching it to you. Your parents didn't bother teaching it to you. And none of your friends think it's important because they would rather all be poor and have a nice pair of Nikes today rather than probably set their family up for the rest of their lives.
bonds. Colleges don't even teach a lot of that right now. So
Do you
come
work
out.
In a high school?
Did I work at a high school?
Do you have experience like me, someone who's essentially on those front lines working in?
I've
probably
worked
been
with
at a
many
high
high school teachers and the directors of psychology to talk to the youth. Yes,
So
I have.
right now, I'm in a position where I have options, like you said. I do have some options, but they seem to be somewhat destructive and exploitative of me, of my peers. So I'm trying to
I think you're too
discriminate.
selective for jobs right now. You don't have the ability to be selective at this stage.
Well,
If-
but the
if
thing
you
is,
really
I do
wanna make
because I'm
some-
instilled with a freedom that is maybe God universe given, and I don't actually have
Yeah.
to, because of the system, like you said, I don't have to play along with some corrupt game. So I gave up
I think
a
California is
career.
perfect for someone like you.
Well, thank you, California is. But you mentioned earlier in a previous discussion that we have free speech, we can say what we want.
Right.
But the thing is, have you been punched on the train for how you look and how you share your ideas?
Do you?
I've been punched before. I punched him back.
Do I look like an American to you? Do you see this nose?
No, I'm just
I'm
asking.
Middle
have-
Eastern. You know
Iranian.
what's happened to this guy? You know what's happened to me when I was discriminated
do you
all
really
over the place?
feel like that's free
But-
speech
no,
if
but,
you're being
but I don't mind
punished
it. I don't.
by people who have prejudice
I
against
don't
you?
mind it because I understand there is a risk that you may be disrespected. There, like here, I've been disrespected here many times. I've been offended here many times. A lot of you are coming here finding a way to attack me and tell different stories. I'm okay with that.
I don't want to attack you.
You're being very respectful. I'm not talking about you. But what I'm saying to you is, when you say, "Have you ever been punched in the face on a bus?" You don't want to hear about what things has happened to me because of the way I look.
Because I feel
but
like
I don't want to use
you've
that.
been through a lot of trauma
I don't
in your
wanna-
life,
but what I-
and now you're kind of clinging to things.
I'm
that
not. What I don't want to
think
do
you
that.
are.
I have my son is sitting right here, my 13-year-old son, my 4-year. I have 4 kids. I bring them everywhere. I want them to see that it's okay. People gonna disagree with you. You
I
have to
am
be
with
comfortable with
13-year-olds
it.
Great parent. Great
13-year-olds
parent.
all the time.
Because of my job, because I'm a substitute teacher and a tutor. The thing is,
Got it.
you
I
can
got it.
imply
Yeah.
many different things,
Got
and
it.
that is your right. But what I'm saying is, right now,
Yeah.
I care deeply about having a good experience. The incentive that I feel is for peace and prosperity.
I respect it.
And again, I'm using my freedom now, but the
I
issue is
respect
you're
If you want peace, have such a ridiculously strong army that no country wants to fuck with you. Then you'll have peace. There you go.
saying we have all these options, but whenever I tour
You
the
do,
globe,
but
I
you-
see franchises that have monopolized pretty much everywhere. So
Sure.
when you talk about options, it's really, there's these select few people who have this infrastructure that's really benefiting them more than others, and without some sort of conscious, spiritual, moral awakening, what can we do except for beg and appeal and
Well,
amass?
no, you can't be too selective. At
Well,
the
but you-
beginning,
again,
when I worked
I
at
don't like that
Haagen-Dazs, I
word
couldn't be too
can't because
selective
you're
for a
saying
job.
I can't whenever
I agree with
can.
that.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice.
Appreciate you for being respectful.
He sounds like he's a good person morally, but maybe judging things on how he wants is the problem. But he does sound like a good person.